a controversy surrounding Corey Holcomb about something that he said that I honestly think that is misconstrued. And so I want to go into this. And like a lot of things, Sabs, when I sent you this tweet, how did it sound to you at first? Because a lot of times people lack context. But your first reaction, what did you think?
It sounded like he was, on the same camp as pull yourself up by the bootstraps, like people making excuses as to why they're not doing well financially. That's what it sounded like if you just watched the clip. But that's why it's important to go back to the original video, because sometimes these clips on Twitter are taken out of context.
Yes. So I'm going to share with you guys what it is, what people are saying. So this is out of Black Millionaires. They posted this, and then they said comedian Corey Holcomb is receiving backlash for clowning people who do not have their money and career together by the age of 40. The system work on you. Shut the F up. Now, let's listen to this, and it's going to sound like he's saying exactly what Sabby said. But is that all? So let's take a look really quick.
First of all, if you ain't got shit and you motherfucking 40 plus, shut the fuck up. The system worked on you. If you out here at rock bottom in your 40s, the system worked on you. I'm sorry, it got you. You still stuck in a rut. You still playing the lottery. Scratch your shit off with a penny as you leave the liquor store. See if I got some. That's what they want you to be on, some shit like that. First of all,
Well, I'm wondering, Black Millionaires posted this clip. I'm wondering if they saw the full video, or did they, see this clip from someone else and then they posted this clip?
That's a good question.
That's the thing.
And they don't continue on, right? Somebody else said this is a layered discussion. There's lots of barriers that trip people up, especially Black people, when it comes to career and money. However, a lot of people on an individual level F off in their 20s and then end up being a burden on their loved ones who were grinding. Even that doesn't really actually explain what was said beforehand. And the thing is that this was actually a more nuanced conversation that I honestly think that Black Millionaires just failed to show. And I don't know. I don't think it was intentional, but it's like, if you get the full context, because literally 45 minutes of context was missed upon this.
Right. And, you have to ask what was the intention. Again, did they see the full video, or did they see this clip shared by someone else and then they recorded that same clip and then reposted that clip? This is why it's important. And JB, this is a lesson that I think both of us learned, like doing this show and and just commentating in general, is that we used to do this too, where we would see a clip on Twitter and we shared the clip and not go back to the original source and then be like, oh, shoot, like we don't have the full context. And so I think a lot of us have done that in the past. And so we kind of learned, like, along the way, that it's important to go back to the original video. So a lot of people are giving Corey flack because of that clip and not actually watching the full conversation. And we've seen people do this to Jimmy Dore a lot too. They'll take like this one clip on Twitter and the clip will purposely leave out what he said before that or after that. When I talked to Jimmy Dore, when I asked him about the reparations conversation, somebody clipped that and, tagged, a bunch of people in it and stuff and said, why you shouldn't talk to Jimmy about this and da-da-da-da. Why, you saw that. Like, why aren't you talking to, like reparations people about this or whatever? Totally clipped out the part before that clip that was actually important in reference to context, and the piece that was said after that clip. And so, like I said, sometimes people do this shit on intentional to try to like get our attention and stuff like that. Now, maybe this could have been done intentional to get Corey's attention, but that's not fair,
It's not. And the thing is that honestly, after listening to this entire conversation, it was actually not what you think. So I want to get into that. So first off, it's his podcast. So I hope that we don't get a copyright claim, but we're just going to be commentating and stopping and starting. So it's not going to be actually playing it. And I hope that he actually appreciates the breakdown that we do, because, you know, you and I, we actually, you know, from watching this was actually some pretty base takes.
Right. And you know, who knows? Like maybe he'll see this or something. But I think that I think it's JB and I think that it's important that you guys see the full context of this conversation.
Mm-hmm. So let me share this. And first, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to go back and we're going to go over the actual context of what he said when he said it. So let me see. 650. Okay. All right. Whoop. Let's go to that part. And I'm going to be starting a little bit early, okay? All right. So, let me see. Unmute. All right.
That shit played the fuck out. Motherfucker, look, a motherfucker who break in your house could fall and sue you for falling. What the fuck you gonna do with some money in your name?
So first of all, he's ending on a note where talking about how just having money isn't enough anymore, because somebody can take your money away within a snap, you know, in an instant. So that's basically what he's saying, just to give you guys some context.
Mm-hmm.
My man walking down the stairs now. If he fell down the stairs, goddammit, if he wanted to,
He's gonna shake the room.
Get your conversation. All I'm saying, man, everybody ain't got the master plan upstairs like the next person might have, what they call the master plan. But first of all, if you ain't got shit and you motherfucking 40 plus, shut the fuck up. The system worked on you. If you out here at rock bottom in your 40s, the system worked on you. I'm sorry, it got you. You still stuck in a rut. You still playing the lottery, scratching shit off with a penny as you leave the liquor store. Let me see if I got some. That's what they want you to be, on some shit like that. You gotta perfect your grind out here where you get to the point where you just like, okay, I'm coasting now. I'm coasting. The machine run itself. But all that, man, I just don't know a lot of people who got it off hard work. Back in the day, there were men who, Marcus, you brought up real estate, like in the maybe early 1900s to maybe 1950. I even go as far back as 1960. You used to be able to build a house. I'm talking about there were men who built houses and they fucking have wealth because of that, because they were able to do something with their hands that's worth something now. But now, what can you do to become wealthy? Will somebody tell me? Because I don't know. They coming out with this money that expires in the bank.
So that gives more context, right? You know, it basically meaning that you can't work hard and make it in this country. That's basically what he was alluding to, and really what he built up to for over the past 45 minutes. And we'll get into some of the points that he made. But I think it's important that a lot of people realize that, you know, he wasn't basically saying that you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps. He's basically saying, even if you did, it still does not work anymore in this country.
Correct. And another thing he mentioned about the scratch tickets. I was thinking about this a couple days ago. Every time I go to the gas station, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the closest one to me, the pumps, for whatever reason, the pumps don't know how to read the cards with the chips. So you always got to go inside. And I noticed, like, every time I see someone buying scratch tickets, it's always older people that are old enough to be my parents. Mm-hmm. Or like grandparents.
Yeah.
And I have to ask myself, like, man, You know the system messed up when somebody in like their 70s or their 80s really hoping on winning something from that scratch ticket because they need the money. And what have we developed, economically as the system that we have in this country, to the point where he said, if you're in your 40s, I just want to explain, like, if you are in your 40s and you still, struggling, to his point, it is more difficult the older you get out of it, out of that hole, unless you have somebody lift you up out of that hole, someone extend their hand to you and pull you up out of it, somebody help you get out of that situation, unless you have some help. But it's true. It's like once you get to a certain age, it's going to be harder. And I say this because even when it comes to employment, there's discrimination in reference to age when it comes to employment. They don't say you're too old. They say you're overqualified. That's what they say. You're overqualified for this job. So it's like, and if you're a career changer, you're trying to switch careers because your field that you're in has been has become more like, I guess, like swallowed up by technology, and there's not many jobs available left in your field. So you may become a career changer. And a lot of times people will pivot to like HR. Like that's a big one, right? Mm-hmm. Again, it's like, no, your age isn't on the application, but your birth date is, so they can see the year that you're born. And so there's a lot of discrimination. So it's true. If you've gotten to that point where a lot of times you're in your 40s and people, you still can't get a leg up, it's harder for you. It's easier when you're in your 20s and when you're in your 30s. People are more willing to help out someone that's younger. People are more willing to give opportunities to people who are younger. But once you get to be a certain age, especially if you have a family, you have kids, then it's just kind of like they feel like you're not of use. Your labor is not going to be of much use for their company. So that goes back to the whole capitalism issue.
Yes. Yeah. And so basically, in fact, after reading the first part of chapter 4 of Laziness Does Not Exist by Dr. Devon Price, one of the things that actually was brought out is that your value, your personal value, is actually tied to your labor value, which makes it seem like if you're not productive at all times, then you don't have value. That means it's also tied to your self-esteem and self-worth. And so because of that, then because you don't produce enough, that you are worthless, when in reality, that is actually a lie that's being told to us, that's perpetuated by what Dr. Devon Price likes to call the laziness lie, or the lie also that's perpetuated by capitalism in order to keep you running, keep you grinding, so to speak. That's basically what it is.
That's right. The closer you get to retirement age, the less use employers seem to have for you, because they know that, you're getting younger people, like people in their 20s, especially the ones that are just graduating high school or just graduating college. They tend to be really hungry, right? Like they want to get out there. They want to get into the workforce. They look at people who are like in their 40s or 50s is like, you've already been through the workforce for so long. You already know the system and you know how challenging it can be. So they look at you as though you come with baggage. Whereas like the younger people, they're bright eyed and bushy tailed, and like, they don't know like just how much corruption is within the labor field yet. So they'll find that out as they go along. But they can get more use out of them. They can overwork them if they want to. A lot of times, younger people don't know their rights when it comes to labor. Yes. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yep. So let me go to the next point. So this, since we now got some of the context of what he said and got the controversy kind of out of the way, let's go into some of the things that Corey Holcomb and a couple of his co-hosts may say. You have two co-hosts that make a couple points. You have Craig and you have Marcus. So Marcus is the guy in the middle. Craig is the guy to the left of Marcus. They both have on hats. So basically, Craig is the light-skinned guy. Marcus is the dark-skinned guy in the middle. So just so you guys know and who's saying what, let's get into this point right quick here.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Some niggas are irresponsible too. They spend unnecessarily. There's a
Do
good
they?
amount of people like that too.
You know the
Right.
people who spend unnecessarily? The people who got some unnecessary money.
Not necessarily. Oh, that's funny.
You got to be aware of your paper, your pockets too. You
Do
know what I
you?
mean? Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, those people that can spend unnecessarily can afford to spend unnecessarily.
who spends unnecessarily? I don't
Poor
know.
people.
Poor people?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yes.
What do
Well, no,
poor
maybe
people
they-
spend unnecessarily?
They get
I would
themselves
like
in
to
debt.
know.
Is that what you're saying? They,
Mac, what up,
a lot of
baby?
people that I know
What's
get
happening,
themselves
man?
in debt. Like, is that what you're talking about too, Marcus? Like, in other words, they already don't have much expense. So what they do is they further themselves down.
I understand
the
your
rabbit
point,
hole
D,
in
but
debt.
I would love for Marcus to just explain to me, what do poor people buy unnecessarily?
A lot of things. They
Like,
they,
I-
they spend a
for
lot.
the floss. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah,
kind of
like some people spend money like to look good. You're supposed to be frugal when you poor.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw this part, Sabby, but he busted out laughing because he said you're supposed to be frugal while you're poor. Now, what would be your answer to that? Please, enlighten us on. Go easy on him now, Sabs. But
Okay.
what was
Okay.
your position on somebody being frugal? You have to be frugal when you're poor.
I just feel like that's a class gatekeeping mentality. And define frugal. Frugal to one person may be different for someone else. Like, for example, let's say you are poor, but your job requires you to wear a suit to work. So you got a leg in to corporate America, so to speak, where you can get that, you have that job, you have that opportunity to move up in the ladder and maybe to build, some type of wealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you have a job where you have to wear a suit to work, or let's say you have to wear dress clothes, maybe not necessarily a suit, but you have to wear dress clothes. JB, I think you and I both know that slacks and, dress shirts, especially the men collar shirts, those clothing items are not cheap.
No.
So no matter how frugal you are, if you have to wear dress clothes like to your job, that is going to be money that's going to be coming out of your paycheck just so you can have the right dress code when you go into work.
Yeah.
Two, a lot of people, if they're poor, if they're on like food stamps and things like that, okay, how far does being frugal go when we have inflation? If you're on food stamps and you go to the grocery store, every week I've gone to the grocery store so far, the prices continue to increase every week. So if you're on food stamps and you're trying to be frugal, that frugalness can only go so far when we have inflation. So that type of mindset, the Mr. Dude sitting there with the hat on the white hat that he has, that's a capitalist mindset. And for him to like put poor people in this certain bubble as to what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do, why is it okay for people who have money to be able to take care of their self, to be able to get massages, to be able to like have good health care, to be able to get their hair done so that they can look and feel good about their self? But basically, if you're poor, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
You see the problem with the mentality is like, if you're poor, you're not supposed to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is that it's like frugal for whom? Because in my opinion, and this is how my grandmother was, frugal doesn't mean getting the same clothing item for cheap over and over and over and over. It might mean getting the more expensive, higher quality products so it lasts a long time, so you won't have to keep getting the same damn thing over and over. Like, for instance, I can keep getting those cheap $20, $25, $30 dress shoes, or I can go and get some nice oh my god, I forgot the brand of that shoe, but they're like $150. But how long are they going to last you? That's the question.
Yep.
The thing is that sometimes you have to forego thrifty for quality. The problem is that unfortunately, look, $150 shoes, and they may last you 10 years versus having to buy $40, $35, $40 pairs every 6 months. You're going to end up spending more within a shorter period of time. And so, frugal for whom?
And I can tell you, like, yeah, like you can buy, like, if you have to wear heels for your job, you have to wear dress shoes for work. You can get dress shoes from Walmart, sure. But how long are they going to last? So is it better for you just to pay like $100 for a really nice pair of dress shoes? Or do you continue to keep buying shoes from Walmart, which are eventually going to surpass that $100? So I think this idea that they like to look good. It's like everyone should be able to look good.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that bothers me. Like when people like say those kinds of things. Like same thing with like women getting their hair done. It's like, especially for us women, like if you're going into like any type of corporate job or like a business like environment, there are certain ways that we can't wear our hair to work. There are certain companies that don't allow Black women to come into the office with their natural hair texture.
Yep.
And that's another problem. So what does that mean? That means you got to get your hair done. That costs money.
Yep. And those keratin treatments are expensive, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even men's haircuts are expensive now. It used to be.
Mhm.
Now, no. Just to get a fade, you pretty much got to go. You pretty much got to go and give some plasma just to get a fade now. Lord,
And
Lord.
men's dress shoes are very expensive too. Because when I was in high school, I worked at a store in the mall called the shoe department.
Mhm.
And if you were put in the men's section for like a Saturday, that was like you knew you were going to make bank on commission, because the men's dress shoes and the sneakers, they always cost more. So if you could sell a pair of like men's dress shoes on a Saturday, or like in a pair of sneakers, that's awesome, like commission for you. But men's dress shoes, those shoes are expensive. So I mean, again, it's just like, I don't like his comment where he's like, they like to look good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, fuck that. Let's continue.
Like until you get to a point where you have
Marcus said, when you poor, you supposed to be frugal.
you are until you get to a point you save you enough money to where you could be able to spend necessarily.
Marcus, that is the most naive thing I ever heard you say in your life, bro. I mean, like, this is just my opinion, of course.
Sure.
You know, your opinion is just as important as my opinion. But I come from being poor. I'm talking about nothing. And when you ain't got shit, you are basically trying to find the smile to see in the mirror to cope with what you ain't got.
Mhm.
So
There you go.
I'm saying, like, if you don't got shit, you can't fuck off no money, because you ain't got no motherfucking money. I'm telling you, man, there are people who buy cars with credit cards.
Yeah.
There are people who travel when they want, where they want.
But some people
So you telling me a motherfucker that worked all week, 50, 60 hours, can fuck off some money? It's impossible. He ain't.
And I'll tell you, like when I was waiting tables, you had to have a pair of like black pants, and then you had to get those, the restaurant shoes, JB. I don't know what they call them. The food service shoes that you have to get that have the steel toe, but they can be
Yeah.
sneakers. You have to
Resistant,
have
yeah.
those. Yeah.
Mhm.
For people who don't know, you have to have those because like when you go back into the kitchen, if something were to fall on your foot, there's that whole deal, and you don't want to deal with all that.
Yeah, that too, Xbox, yeah.
So you have to buy those shoes, which oftentimes those weren't cheap. So I had to get those shoes. I had to get at least one pair of black pants. And then of course they gave me like the shirt to wear, right?
Mhm.
For the first like month, I wore the same black pants and the same shirt over and over again. Whereas like some other people had 5, 6 different pairs of black pants, different shoes. I did not have that. I wore like the same, I just would wash the same pair of pants over and over and over and over again. And that's the reality. So it's like, if that's what you have, then when it comes to everything else, like how you look, whether it's your hair or whatever, you at least want to be able to, like he said, look in the mirror and smile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, these are the kind of things I think people don't really understand if you haven't had to struggle and you haven't had to go through that. Like, especially when you first start a job and you don't have any money. When I say you don't have any money, I don't mean that you don't have any money, but your parents are helping you out. I mean, you don't have no money. Your parents can't help you out, or your parents are not helping you out, or your parents are not even living. when you have to scrap with what you have to get through the job so that you can get paid, then take that money to get the other things that you need to get. And I'm talking about being poor to a point where you don't want people to come to your apartment because you don't have a bed, you have a couch, and your couch is your bed.
Yes. Thank you.
Some people don't understand that. Some people don't know what that's like. They ain't had that type of struggle. But I remember after the 2008 housing crisis, I remember not allowing people to come to my apartment because at first that was all I had. Yeah. And it's like, come over. It's like, what are we going to do here? Where are you going to sit? Where are you going to? I don't want them to see that I'm sleeping on the couch. Yeah. Until I was able to save up enough money and to be able to buy a bed. Like, that's what some people know, that struggle. I know that struggle. JB knows that struggle. Yeah. But a lot of people who make those comments about they're supposed to be frugal, they don't know that struggle. No, they don't know the struggle of, especially for those who waited tables, they don't know the struggle of going to work on E and hoping that you make enough in tips that night so you can put gas in your car to get back home. Some of them, they don't know that struggle. Mm-mm. And that's a big difference. For a lot of us, it was hard. Like after like the 2008 housing crisis, a lot of us, it was hard. The gas went up, you know, and then obviously people weren't going out to eat as much. That's the first thing people cut out. Yeah. When the economy's bad. Yep. So a lot of people don't know that struggle.
And then your hours start getting cut. And once your hours get cut, like you'll go into work ready to make your money so that you can afford your rent for the next month. The next thing you know, they're sending you home. And you have to work that day, because if not, your check's not going to be enough for you to make the rent. And the landlords don't accept partial payments. So next thing you know, you'll go into eviction process. And then on top of that, not only do you have late fees now, but you also have to pay attorney fees and court fees on top of it. So then by the time you have to pay your rent, you have to pay extra on top of it already. And then that cuts into your electric bill. That cuts into your food bill. That cuts into your transportation for you to get to and from work. Sometimes you don't even have enough to catch the bus to get to work.
That's right. I'm talking about you making enough money to the point where you only make enough to eat and go to sleep.
Yup.
That's it. Ain't no, let's all go out after work and go to the bar. No, I mean, like, you make that money that you made that night and then you go back home and you go to sleep and then you get back up the next day and do the same thing. Going to work, asking people if you can pick up their shift so that you can make enough money so that you can pay your electric bill. Because when we go through inflation, everything go up. Everything.
Yep. Sleep is your dinner. Sleep.
There you go.
That's what your dinner is.
There you go.
That, or you're going to have to get one of them Jamaican beef patties at 7-Eleven or buy a pack of some ramen noodles and then just call it a day. But that's basically it. That's all you got. And people were like, oh, you need to eat healthier. Man, motherfucker, you eat healthier. Go ahead and tell me what I can and can't eat, even though what I can eat is the unhealthy stuff that's cheap as hell. Like, look, I was looking the other day. I saw a can of Arizona tea for $1.50. What was more expensive? A bottle of 7-Eleven water was for $2.50. $1 more for a bottle of 7-Eleven water? More expensive than Arizona tea? Are you kidding me right now? Water?
That's right. There were times like going to work into the restaurant and being happy to go in so you get the free meal because you're an employee.
Exactly, because it saves you money.
That's right. That's right. A lot of people don't know. So it's just, I think sometimes like people, especially if they just see us like on YouTube or whatever, they don't realize like where we may have been.
Yeah. And I'm still broke as hell. You know, they don't know, man. Man, I did not think we would get this deep, but I'm glad. Mm-hmm. All right, let's continue.
It got no you living beyond you ain't never heard nobody living beyond their means.
No, I don't understand what living beyond your means is.
Spending it on
that's an imaginary concept.
Do you know a lot of people came from working 50, 60 hours to becoming rich?
Or you see the kids that are lacking don't have none.
Did you just say a lot of people who worked 50 or 60 hours became rich?
Yes. If you most people who are heavy businessmen, they came from working full time.
What you mean? Like
that's bullshit, by the way.
No.
That's bullshit.
white hat dude is way off. A lot of those people came from families that had generational wealth.
Yeah. In fact, I think the statistic is over 40% of the ultra wealthy came from families that already had wealth. I might be off on that. I think it's about 40%. But
Already had some type of, or those people had someone help them out and give them a leg up. Those people had someone that was like, okay, I got this business idea. Why don't you come in and join me? Like that kind of thing. This whole idea of people being a self-made billionaire, like I never believed that. How are you self-made? Like Elon Musk, for example, that's not self-made when you're coming from a family of generational wealth that stole wealth or stole possible wealth from Africans.
Yeah.
So you don't, it just same thing. Kylie Jenner, same thing. You're not self-made when you coming from a family with generational wealth.
Yeah. And look, people like Jeff Bezos, his family gave him $200,000 in order to start his business. Donald Trump had over $1 million that was given to him, plus his daddy, put him on the board. People like Bill Gates, his family was affluent. They all come from affluence. Even if you're not super rich, you come from affluence. You still had a safety net in order to start on stuff. How many people are talking about right now? Like I showed a video from a realtor on TikTok where he said most of the people who are buying homes are either older people or there are a lot of younger white people who families are paying the down payment for them.
And people, at least in Massachusetts, people are offering like $200,000 cash down payment for homes just so they can get the home. People are foregoing the housing, the housing, what's it called? The housing inspection. People are choosing to forego housing inspections, which is dangerous, by the way. Don't ever do that. Choosing to forego a housing inspection, coughing up $200,000 down payment just to get the home because the houses are so expensive here now. It's gotten to that point where it used to be bidding wars. That's not even a thing anymore. People are just showing up, just dropping down cash. And so people have to understand, even when you look at someone like Mark Zuckerberg, his family may not have been billionaires, but they weren't poor either.
No, they actually could afford to give him a full ride to Harvard.
There you go.
If you can afford to send your kid to Harvard, you got money.
Yep. It ain't that many. And I'll be honest with you. And I worked at Harvard. I'm right here in the Boston area. And I'm going to keep it real with you. It's not that many people, many students at Harvard that come from poor families. It's not that many of them. There are some, and they get a full ride from Harvard. But it ain't that many of them. Most of those people come from families that have wealth or they are legacy kids. And so that's what people really got to understand. It's a big problem. So this gatekeeping mentality that people have in reference to class and poor people, that's something that has to change.
Yep. So here's my thing. I wrote some notes that I wanted to say really quick in response to, let me see. Did I get all the way to where I needed to? Oh, just a little bit more, a couple more seconds, you see.
Fat, like it's kind of heavy you talking about. And rich people don't have shit either. That's what niggas don't realize.
Okay.
Basically. But one of the things that I wanted to say was, so under this guy saying unnecessary spending, you can't get rich without working for the boss. This is why they make it so that you never make enough to do it. Why do you think minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour federally? Why nobody making minimum wage in their state this is why nobody making minimum wage in their state can afford a 2-bedroom apartment in this country. The people who can invest already have the money and privilege to begin with. Unless you're one of the lucky ones, they choose to make it. That's only to give the illusion of hope. So that's basically what I wanted to say. And then there's another point that was made. Let me see, 2805. There we go. All right. So here's another point.
So that's why I'm saying it goes back to what I was saying. When I watch people work all week
I don't see
and
it.
don't get no money, I don't think that's fair. This country is not set up right.
Yeah.
There are too many people who have.
Yeah,
Are you sharing it? It's not on the screen. I didn't see it.
it's not. Oh,
No, I don't.
oop. Sorry.
been working for 20, 30 years, ain't got a motherfucking thing. That's not fair. That's not fair. If you work a job, you should be able to own a house and a car and be able to take your family vacation twice a year and maybe to dinner once a month out.
I agree.
That it
That's
should
okay,
never
yeah.
be, the standard for living should not be under that.
I agree.
Oh, it's
But there
terrible
are
now.
people who work all year long, and if they miss a day,
Ooh.
they got the bus of stain to catch up.
Yep.
Yep. And
Especially if you don't get sick pay.
oh, definitely. You know, there's so many people who just they can't make it, you know, and it's sad because I mean, most of this country cannot live on more than I mean, they can't afford a $400 emergency. And let me share this really quick. There is an article, and I'll get back to the video real quick, but there's an article out of the Hill that shows it says 63% of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck, and a survey says the majority of those living paycheck to paycheck said inflation is making it harder to reach long-term financial goals. This was back in December of last year.
See, you see how this is how things have changed. That's why it's like, you know, it used to be, well, those people need to learn how to manage their money better. All 63%.
63%. That's a lot of people, man.
That's a lot. It's more than half.
Yep. In fact, that's 2/3. That's almost 2/3 of the entire workforce saying that they have to live paycheck to paycheck. Are all of us just lazy and we don't know how to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps?
JB, I'm telling you, I pop into the grocery store at least once a week because I got to get the spinach. So JB and I make smoothies for those of you who don't know. Smoothie team. Smoothie. And that's cheap, like the cheaper things to get, right? So I pop in there at least once a week because I at least got to pick up the spinach. But I'm telling you, the prices have been increasing every week. I'm not kidding. Maybe not where you are, in Massachusetts, like those prices continue to go up every week.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's continue. So there's a lot of good points that's made, especially the guy Craig. He makes some good points too.
If you want to understand this topic more clear, read Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor, White Wealth. It tracks how Black people being lower class was something that was socially engineered by the system. It was purposely done. You know what I mean? It was purposely done. And he tracks the laws that they passed over the last 300 or 400 years and the different things that were actually done legally to keep us down and make us the peasant class.
That's what I was just going to say. Marcus, I mean, not Marcus, Craig, I haven't even read the book, but I'm sure that brother gives some information on how you're not going to be in a position to get out of poverty. To get out of poverty takes something that is super duper hellified out of motherfucker. Whenever you
Or revolutionary.
Or you got some help.
Yep.
Somebody helped you, you know?
Yep. Definitely.
you see a motherfucker get up out of poverty, it's something super duper hellified about it.
They financially literate.
They who?
Financially literate.
I'm not financially literate.
Yeah, I'm not saying everybody did, but most people that come from that situation become financially literate.
Who?
The people that are making investments in assets, dog.
Because you really need to read this book.
I
ain't even read the book, but I know you need to read. So you gonna invest your way out of poverty.
Read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. He'll tell you.
what is his name? Kiyosaki?
Kiyosaki, Asian man.
Is he Asian man?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, the
You
white
read
daddy.
that book on that.
You-
read
that
that-
educated him.
You read that Kung Pao ass book if you
I
want to.
can't.
I know what the fuck is going on out here.
It's
All set up for you to die in the poorhouse.
Well,
You
that's
don't
right.
own nothing in America.
right.
You taking hope away from people.
Quan
speaking
said
like that.
poverty is a mindset.
You can't sell hope. That's worse than dope.
That's
Hope is
deep.
worse than dope. It's false belief.
Hope is
No,
worse than
remember
dope.
what I said?
It's
years
false
ago?
belief. It's
I
not.
wonder if I asked
Hope
Dr.
is usually
Claude
delayed
Anderson,
disappointment.
can
right?
you invest your way out of poverty? I wonder what he would say.
He gonna say
I would say no.
Investing requires money.
Yeah.
You can't invest in something if you don't already have money. That's the problem with why a lot of people can't get out of those situations, because it costs money to make money. So if you don't have no money, somebody has to help you. There's different ways that some people have gotten out, and I want to give a couple examples.
Mhm.
How did my parents get out of poverty? They joined the military. Should
Mhm.
you join the military? No.
Mm-mm.
If you were to ask my dad today, should you join the military? He would say, hell no. That was his ticket out of poverty. It wasn't like he was like, yay, I want to go fight for my country. No, that was a way for him to get out of the projects. That's one way. Another way, you get an athletic scholarship. Is everybody an athlete? No.
I
And
sure
even
as-
then it's like you basically, they've changed the rules now to where these athletes can make money off of their name and likeness. But when I was in college, that was not the case. And those athletes were basically indentured servants. The football players were not allowed to have a job because they were on the football team. So you ain't got no money. So you talking about going on dates and stuff like that. How you going to go date someone if you don't have no money to even take them out on a date?
Mhm.
So you basically become like an indentured servant. Another way to get out. Somebody comes to you with a business proposition to get you out. Now, that could be a good business proposition. It could be a bad business proposition. Sometimes that business proposition may mean selling drugs. That's not a good business proposition.
No.
Sometimes it could be, hey, man, I'm thinking about starting this tech company or whatever. You want to get on page with me with this. But even with that, that requires you being in the right spaces with the right people who are going in that direction. And not
Yeah.
everybody has that. Then you got to look at the school system. So a lot of the schools in those neighborhoods are under-resourced and underfunded. Some of these schools don't even have computers, guys. Even today, I've
Mhm.
been in those schools, still don't have them. So if the schools are a sham and the food that you're eating in the community is a sham because you're not given healthy food options, and this refers back to the food deserts. We have food deserts in this country where people only have like a CVS or Rite Aid to go to get food. So you're not eating healthy. You're getting a poor education. How is this all their fault? People can't help where you're born. You can't help if you were born into poverty. Yes, some people are outliers and they do get out. But those people that get out usually had some type of help. Not everybody can be an athlete. Not everybody can be a musician. Not everybody can be an actor. Most people will not get that opportunity, no matter how good they are. And not everybody is able to join the military.
Mm-mm.
So this idea that dude in the white hat has, where it's just like they're financial illiterate, well, that goes back to the school system.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not that, why aren't they teaching? Let's be real. If I go to the suburbs here, the Boston suburbs, if I go to Belmont, Massachusetts, when you walk in there and these kids are learning like advanced calc and they're learning about finances and things like that. Why aren't they teaching those same things at those schools in the inner city? Why aren't they teaching those same classes? Why aren't they having those same recruiters, those same college recruiters that come to Belmont, that come to Boston Latin? Why aren't they having those same college recruiters come to those schools in the hood? You see what I mean?
Because they don't think enough of them. No. And then on top of it, you can say, oh, you just need more financial literacy, but you can be as financially literate all you want, but if you don't actually have the resources in order to appeal to that financial literacy, you're done. It's just like saying, I know exactly what it takes to grow a plant, but the problem is if I ain't got the seeds, then I can't grow shit.
There you go. it takes money to make money. Not to sound cliche, but it's true. If you ain't got no money, how are you going to start a business with no money?
Yeah. And here's the thing. You're priced out because these employers will not pay you enough in order for you to get yourself out of the situation.
$7.25 an hour.
$7.25 an hour.
How are you supposed to get out of poverty with that?
Nope. This is why building class solidarity and class consciousness is so important. This is why we're doing this is why we're trying to, do these chapters all over the country and trying to build up class consciousness, because ultimately, look, they don't want you to ever succeed. They're putting this barrier before you. All right, so here's another point that I wanted to go over.
To the bed hurt, then go out there and go get it. Somebody be like, well, how you get it? I can't tell you how to get it. You just gotta go get it. I'll help you because you my brother. I'll help you. And this is all, I got proof that I pass licks to my brothers. I'm not just saying that. I'm saying I can't tell you everything. You might not be cut to get it. You might be meant to have nothing. It's just people act like you ain't supposed to say that to people. But I know career losers. Niggas 60 talking about I'm finna. I be like, what? Nigga, it's over. Go get you a canoe and ride people across the river before they finna fight for $5.
That's funny.
I'm just saying.
Somebody said clone Tyrone. That was great, by the way. If anybody ever
I think I missed my point.
I was just gonna say, she mentioned they cloned Tyrone. If you guys haven't seen that movie on Netflix, you should definitely watch it, because that movie actually shows you exactly how they keep us where we are. That everything's controlled. It's not necessarily controlled by people who live in the community. It's controlled by people who don't live in the community. Why do you think? Look around. Look around. This is why I used to say to people, because this, still to this day, this really bothers me. You walk through any type of suburb and you don't see these things. You go to the inner city neighborhoods, particularly Black inner city neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Why the businesses that you see that are abundant, why is it always the check cashing places, the payday loan places, liquor store, pawn shops? Did I say pawn shops yet? Why do you see those things all the time? One on every corner, Those are things designed to keep you where you are. You don't see those businesses in the suburbs. You don't see that shit over and over again.
And the plasma donation clinic right in my neighborhood, 1 block from me, on top of all that, because they want us to donate our plasma. They don't want people who are rich. They don't have that in rich areas where you can donate plasma in order to get cash. No, they have it in our area, and you can only do it, I think, once a week. You can't go in one day and come back the next day because it's a health issue. So we also have.
I donated plasma when I was in undergrad. I'm not even kidding. This is usually the people they get to do it is people in poor Black neighborhoods and the college students, because they know a lot of times we're broke college kids and we need the money. So we used to go donate plasma and stuff like that to get money.
I'm not allowed to because I'm gay.
Yeah, there's restrictions too. There's certain medical restrictions. Apparently, if you've lived in certain places during certain years, you can't do it. If you have an iron deficiency, they won't let you do it. Things like that. But I'm just saying that there are businesses that are in those communities that are designed to keep people where they are, not to uplift people in the community and get them out of poverty. And the number one thing, and that's the question a lot of people should be asking, where are the businesses in the neighborhood and the community to help get people out of this situation instead of keeping people in it? They don't want you to get out.
Nah, they don't ever want you to get out. So here is the next point that I think I overshot. So hopefully this is it.
Did what they wanted to do with that. They're on to other things like cloning.
Man.
They're on that getting out of the poverty shit, that's old.
They're like, we've already mastered it.
Right. We
Figured
know
that
you ain't
out.
gonna never be
Yeah,
shit.
we got that.
We want you to
system
think
down
you can
pat.
work hard and get it. You can't work hard and get it. You just gotta find a way to get it. That's why it's a lot of motherfuckers locked up, because they was trying to get it.
Hell yeah. You got to
They
start.
ain't even violent criminals, but they in jail with the violent criminals because they mix them in together. Hopefully they can integrate into the violence. Because you got to be violent if you put amongst motherfucking violent motherfuckers.
Real shit.
You got to be violent. If you ain't violent, motherfucker, you gonna die. So this is all set up in their perfect plan to make you think hard work gonna get you some money. Hard work gonna get your back blew out.
Yep.
You supposed to sleep until you can't sleep no more, until the bed hurt. Then go out there and go get it. Somebody.
And this is one of the points that you were making, where a lot of times people have to turn to drug use. Drug sales in order to make it. But the thing is that even though it may be lucrative, the risk is so high, because if you get caught and then you have to do jail time or prison time, basically your life is over. And let's say, because there's a lot of people who may do it in order to help provide for their households, because it's actually a legitimate job. Let's be real. And then that job is illegal. So then you get put into jail or prison. Guess what? Your family does not have a source of income anymore. Right?
Yep.
And so guess what? Now you're eating even worse. But the thing is, you had to feel like you had to take that risk. You had to commit a crime of opportunity or desperation in order to be able to lift yourself up out of poverty. Because cutting it at the local Starbucks or cutting it at the local, Sonic ain't helping.
No, even on the national level, even the United States government don't want to give you, they don't want to pay you what you should make to get out of poverty. They don't want to pay you more than $7.25 an hour. Like, how messed up is that? This is why more people are leaving this country. This is why more people are leaving, particularly like younger people graduating from undergrad are leaving the US, and they're moving to countries where it's a lot cheaper. They're moving to places like Brazil. In fact, Nico, I don't know if you guys know this, but Nico moved to Brazil. They're moving to places like Brazil. People are starting to go to Cuba. Some people are going to Canada. People are going to places where it's cheaper so they can just get out of the system. Now, does it mean that everything in those countries is perfect? No, there's no such thing as a perfect country, but not everybody even has the means to move.
No, we don't.
And that's another thing. Think back to the migration, right? Think back to when Black people moved from the South and started moving up north, right? And moved to places like Chicago, Baltimore, Philly, Pittsburgh, these cities that had, more manufacturing. Like, think back to those times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even back then, they had the money and the means to move. You talk to people today, particularly even younger people, they don't have the money to move to the city right next door to them, let alone move to another state. And then you look at the cost of housing, the fact that there are actually apartment complexes charging over $1,000 for studio apartments in states like Alabama. What has this country become? Where are you supposed to go? Then you got to have 3 months rent up front. If you don't have any credit, you're going to have a cosigner. So if your parents don't have good credit, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that you have to have before you can even make those types of moves. And then you got to have a job lined up.
Yep.
It's so different.
Yep. And good luck trying to afford a U-Haul on top of all that. Take time off in order to be able to pack things and move. And then on top of that, a lot of times you have to give, an initial payment in order to get your lights turned on and your gas turned on top of all that. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. maybe you might have to, depending on the timing, maybe you might have to put your stuff in storage. That's more money. That's like $150 a month at least.
My grandparents moved from North Carolina to Baltimore, Maryland. Manufacturing jobs lined up. Most of those companies don't even exist anymore, right? But we're able to just take their stuff, get into the car, drive up to Baltimore, and that's it. We all set. Try doing that today.
It don't happen. Nah. Yep. And then on top of that, you got to pay for an application fee, which is BS to me. Anyways. So yeah. Let me go to, I'm almost done. So this one.
What it is, man. It's motherfuckers who ain't got shit. Now there are some people with hating they hard from birth, but I'm just saying, wait a minute, you one hospital visit away from the poorhouse with $1 million in the bank.
Everybody.
God damn, that's great. What he just said right there.
In some the great.
In some the great. You are one hospital visit away from the poorhouse with $1 million in the bank.
With any.
So that's another point, because people get sick.
We need to talk to him, JB.
We do, because he's saying a lot of interesting things, man. And I'm just like, man, this guy is, he's a comedian, but he's on point, man. A lot of comedians tend to be on point though, with a lot of these things.
You don't even have a voice in a courtroom. You're at the mercy of what they want to do to you. Yeah. And
so he's talking about if you get caught trying to make money while doing something illegal.
What helps you sometimes is if you spend that paper. If you ain't got no paper, I don't care how hard you work and invest, you going to jail.
That's real shit. The other thing that would kill poverty, but it would never do it because Black people are addicted to consumerism. Buying shit makes us feel good. We feel better. We got to have a haircut. We got to have fresh shoes. All that shit is bullshit, right? But
I don't think it's bullshit. I think that, this is just my opinion. Yeah. I think that we cope in different ways.
Yeah. It's definitely coping. Materialism. But look, they got this thing called a single family dwelling or single family homes. Basically, they push that they want one family to a house. You got 5, 6 bedroom, 7 bedroom houses with one family in it, 3 members of the family. It should really be like 2 or 3 families in one house.
Old schools, that's how it used to be. Everybody used to be together. Everybody used to support each other and be together.
If people live like that, it would be no poverty. But everybody is addicted to poverty. They're addicted to individualism, or what they call existentialism, which is basically a yearning to have self-expression. But self-expression kind of kills culture, and it kills the ability to get ahead, because this society is built for you to be in debt. It's engineered for you to be a financial slave.
Ain't that what I was talking about?
Yep.
There you go. There you go. And I just want to add something really quick, because oftentimes when we do talk about this issue, people will say, well, there are other groups that come to this country with nothing in their pocket. People kill me with that. I came here with nothing in my pocket. You came here with something. You don't travel for free. So they kill me with that. And they're able to make it. What people have to understand is that when internationals come to this country, there are certain opportunities that are presented to them that are not presented to those of us who are born in this country.
That's true.
There are certain incentives that they get when they're trying to start a business that JB and I would never get. There are certain tax breaks that they may get that JB and I would never get. So people have to understand that.
Yeah. And just to let you know, and I found this out, there are actually certain laws that are in place that if you're from a country, especially a brown country, if you are not highly educated from that country, you cannot come here.
Yep.
So let's say you're from India, right? You cannot come here unless you're college educated already in India. So if you're trying to, if you're somebody who's like, oh man, my parents came here with nothing in their pockets, yeah, but they got an education though.
Vivek Ramaswamy said that Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president under the GOP, he said his parents came here with nothing in their pocket. And all I did was a quick Google search, and I saw that his parents came here with degrees. And so his dad was an engineer and his mom was like a doctor. So it's not like he came from poor working class family. And see, that's the piece that a lot of times people will leave out, that they come here with degrees. I had a friend when I was an undergrad, she was Nigerian, and her parents, she was born in the US, but her parents were born in Nigeria. And even she told me that going all the way back to her great grandparents, they were all doctors. So it was expected that she would also become a doctor. But her parents, even when they came to this country, they were already doctors. And that's what people have to understand. So let's stop it with, the days of when we had people come from like Italy and Ireland and they came here, they were really poor and all that kind of stuff. That don't happen much anymore like it used to.
No,
So,
not unless they come here as undocumented immigrants.
exactly.
Yeah. And look at how the undocumented immigrants are doing financially. Yeah. Because if you come from Venezuela or if you come from Cuba, there's actually special laws in place that actually give you a good footing, even better than some of us Black people who are born here.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Because they want to make capitalism seem better.
That's right. And I live in the Boston area, and this is called like an international hub. And I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of people who have immigrated to this country, and they'll tell you what they were offered, and then you just sit back and look at what we're offered.
Yep. This is my last point that I want to
know nothing.
Right, that's how they
I know most of the condos in New York and San Francisco aren't even occupied because rich people bought them and they just use them if they happen to come there.
That's wild.
So when you get to talking about what people supposed to have, I'm trying to tell you, if you really feel like that sky is yours, God gave you, if you feel like your heart is yours, God gave you, it ain't no limitations to nothing. I'm accepting. That's what I'm trying to say. I will do whatever I have to go out there and be something while this heart is still beating. And I'm wise enough to know everybody ain't good enough to do that. I'm wise enough to know everybody can't find their place. Some people need to be placed or they won't even dare walk off the fucking mountaintop and die.
Right.
I'm smart enough to know that. So when we say what people should have, all I'm saying is this, man. There are a lot of people who are so well off financially, dog. It will make the people who don't know nothing about it go to war. They'll be like, I'm out here busting my ass to get it. And how did they get it? You know how most Caucasian people got rich in America? Slavery.
Yeah.
And it's generational wealth. It's just been in there.
Slavery, because
because
your people were slaves. They still are ahead of you telling you what to do.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. And, I responded to somebody on TikTok. Yeah, I got the Alabama clip. And so I responded to somebody in TikTok that they basically were saying, well, all you need to do is work hard and you can make it in this country. And I responded, I said, if that's the case, if all you had to do is work hard and make it in this country, that means that every single person that was enslaved in this country that is from Africa, they should be millionaires and billionaires, and that generational wealth should have been passed down to me, and I should be telling you what to do.
That's right. A lot of people who are rich don't work hard. They hire people to work hard for them, and they sit back and collect most of the profit and pay them scraps.
Exactly.